Welcome back to another edition of What's Next Longevity Deal Talk. This time out, some of the exciting innovators from the Longevity Ventures Summit. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Mary Furlong. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred. It's turning out to be a very exciting summer with the conference and then these exciting companies that we met at the conference.
And maybe here at the top, let's touch on a few of the headlines and events going on that people should know about.
First of all, I'm going to be in San Diego next weekend for the U.S. Aging Conference, and our friends from New York, Greg Olson and Becky Prive, will be there. NIA will be there, and I will be leading a panel on investors are driving tomorrow's care market. What does that mean for the aging network? And of course, there are lots of area agencies on aging that are part of the U.S. Aging Conference. So it will be fun to be down there. And there's momentum in the market. There's that event. There's an event at the Ziegler Conference in Chicago. Then there's also an event at the Thrive Center. So even in summer, the longevity market keeps connecting with each other.
And of course, last month you had a great gathering for the What's Next Longevity Ventures Summit.
Right. We had, let's see, over 270 people attended. We were at UC Berkeley. That turned out to be a great decision. We had the certificate in longevity and AI. And there was a lot of momentum in the market. Over 60% of the people who attended were new, and they had many important ideas to share about caregiving and technology. But I think that we'll hear about those ideas as we meet our guests today. So we'll be sharing more in our newsletter about the content that we got out of the conference. We also had representatives from different government and nonprofit associations, and people got to pitch for distribution, but it's always the networking that's the strongest part. And there was a lot of important research shared, not the least of which was the new research report from ARP about the trends in the longevity market.
Really exciting. So let's get started here. Let's meet some of our guests. Shauna Sweeney is founder and CEO of Tender Care. Hi, Shauna.
Hi, Fred. Glad to be here.
Great to see you. And from Lucidify, CEO and founder Divya Chander. Hi, Divya.
Such a pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you for having me.
And from Dabble Health, co-founder and CEO Brooke Albright. Thanks for joining in, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, Fred, I don't think we've assembled so many women founders. I hadn't realized that, and winners. So congratulations to all of you. We're excited to have our podcast audience meet you. We'll be starting with you, Shauna, and you were named the winner of the prestigious 2026 John Hopper Impact Award. The award is from Ziegler and the Ziegler Linkage Funds. It honors an exceptional entrepreneur whose work is transforming the aging experience. So, Shauna, fill everyone in on your amazing background and the creation of Tender Care.
Well, thank you, Mary. It is an honor to carry John Hopper's legacy forward. I know he's beloved in this industry, and so we're incredibly humbled and proud to be the winners for this and take it very seriously. I think it's impossible to talk about my own story with Tender Care without also sharing a bit on my own background. I come from tech. I was working in big tech in 2013 when my dad, Mike, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And this was really my first introduction into what it means to be a primary caregiver today, like 63 million others. And it's been about 13 years now where I've lived inside a system that really wasn't built for those like me, primary caregivers who are taking on almost entirely the responsibilities of another adult. And every family I've met since has really been fighting the same battle, which is there is no great infrastructure outside of traditional healthcare today for a family trying to navigate to who the best trusted providers who can help them might be. There's no playbook. And in fact, in my own family, during COVID, an unvetted caregiver actually stole my dad's wedding ring, which my little brother was going to be using to propose to his fiance. And this was really the moment that I knew it was important for those of us in tech to step up and fix some of this. So we built Tender Care as a response to that. It's the first AI native care infrastructure platform for what it looks like to age in America. We call it the front door for families. What that actually means is that we empower families with a number of different emergency ready tools, planning tools. We aggregate 450,000 providers across all 50 states today in 20 different elder care categories. So this is anything from home care, elder law, geriatric care managers, aging life care professionals, adult day centers, you name it, all of it. And what we do is we pair up families with our AI-enabled social worker, Lisa. It's a co-pilot who generates personal plans for any family who has questions. They don't know what they don't know. This is all within under a minute. 98% of these plans are approved by our care navigators without any edits to them. And so our goal is to not only be there to support families like mine as they exit the other side of a diagnosis, a trip to the hospital, a discharge from the ER, but that nobody moving forward has to go through this alone. And that also we can think about aging differently, aging well.
So important, Shauna. Congratulations on the Hopper Award. Step us through how a person would use Tender Care. It's out there today, right?
It is. So the first place that you would find TenderCare, first, we're on the App Store. We're on iOS, Android, on trytendercare.com. So please come. We have thousands of new families and visitors who come onto our different services every month. And you would either start with ordering what we call a Tender ID. This is free for all families. It replaces something called the Vial of Life. And what it does is it allows you to either for yourself or for a loved one, immediately put all of the most important information a first responder will need on the other side of a 911 call. When an emergency happens, there's actually one person on the team who's there to only collect information. They're searching through old mail. They're looking on the refrigerator. They're trying to figure out, is there any allergies here? We need to be aware of conditions that are really important to preserve life-saving measures. So the Tender ID very quickly allows you to be able to arm a first responder with this information and importantly, connect to any other family members. On average, it takes about 72 hours sometimes for a family to be notified on the other side of an emergency. For families like mine, my dad has Alzheimer's. Wandering is a serious concern. This also equips your loved ones with the ability to immediately have the right information on them that also will connect back to you. You can now step out and make sure that they're safe, they're protected. If you don't come in through a Tender ID, which is fine, we also have a number of amazing different ingestion tools for you to actually take what we all have in our offices, our loved ones, our grandparents, our parents might have, which are filing cabinets, medicine bottles that might be prescribed, they might be expired, they might be current. There's a scary set of papers, discharge papers from hospitals, doctors. We allow you to take all of that unstructured, scribbled notes that you wrote in the middle of the doctor's appointment and ingest that into Tender Care. You can do this for any number of different loved ones. In fact, we have thousands of caregivers on the platform today who are taking care of up to 4 loved ones or individuals outside of their extended network. This then creates a very secure, totally encrypted, easy to retrieve, which is really important, especially for many of us who are in the doctor's office and advocating quite often, ability to have all of the important information you need at your fingertips, whether this is medications, doctors, this is legal documents, et cetera. We make this so easy. Outside of now starting to organize all of your information, your family's information, which is so important for establishing a baseline for what care looks like today, Tender Care immediately starts to suggest what are the important different next steps you can take that are going to make your family or you even better equipped. This could take the form of a power of attorney. This could take the form of starting to outline who your emergency contacts are. If we've seen a number of severe weather incidents in your area over the last 12 months, we start to create an intelligent system that proactively predicts what are the most important next thing you or your family need to start to consider. So this all happens off of an under a minute sign up with just a few questions we ask. So we're there to ultimately be the co-pilot for a family through what we know is a number of different important workflows that happen in between what can often be big moments. This could be urgent trips to the ER. I myself have had them. Tender Care supports you in the in-between and also on the other side of those incidents. So the minute that there is an emergency, we either know this because a Tender ID has been scanned or we've checked in with you. We regularly check with all of our caregivers, our families. We're there to step in, both with our team, our care navigators, and also with our Find Help access to immediately route you to whatever the needs are that you may have. If this is on the other side of a fall, this may take the shape of home safety, durable medical equipment. We route you to real trusted professionals on the other side that we've gone ahead and done the work, which is on average around 20 hours of research time a family would normally need to do, almost instantly for you. So you know exactly who you need to call and how to be able to stabilize on the other side of that.
So amazing work, Shauna. And of course, we held our annual $10,000 business plan competition. This is the 23rd year we've done it. And before we meet the winner, let's introduce you to the People's Choice winner, Dr. Divya Chandler. Divya, let's learn about Lucidify and your brain monitoring platform.
Yeah, so by the way, Shauna, I'm actually a physician, so I get a lot of these families that come in and they have a loved one who can't really speak or advocate for themselves. So I'm really thrilled about the work that you're doing. So that brings me actually to my background. I'm an anesthesiologist and I'm also a neuroscientist. And the thing that originally drove me was I wanted to actually understand the basis of human consciousness. So when I chose my medical specialty, I chose anesthesiology as my discipline so I could make people reversibly unconscious for a living and study their brains. What ended up happening was I ended up titrating or basically giving people anesthetics in the operating room based on what their brains were telling me in real time. And I would put electrodes on their foreheads that would actually measure brain waves, and that's how I would do this. And I just decided that doing this one-on-one wasn't enough. I really wanted to scale the ability to actually map brains and deliver drugs safely to brains. Went on a customer discovery journey. And really, where we landed is that we never monitor the brain as a vital sign. We actually take vitals from every major organ, but we don't do it from the brain. And it's because typically you have to put people into a large scanner or put this crazy, cumbersome EEG cap on their head. And so we have a peel and stick device now that takes seconds to place and it can continuously monitor the brain. And so this really does turn EEG into a vital sign. And we use artificial intelligence at the edge to continuously monitor and identify brain states. So our first target is delirium, which is acute brain failure, which is the most expensive modifiable risk factor for Alzheimer's dementia. And we can also perform clinical grade sleep staging and extract basically sleep and pharma biomarkers. And then our roadmap essentially is to treat the brain directly by stimulating it with energy. So we call this non-invasive neuromodulation. And the idea is to heal vulnerable brains and potentially actually de-age brains and bring them back to a more optimal longevity-oriented sort of functional state.
So, Divya, tell us more about how the company came about, where it is today, and the vision going forward.
Yeah, so the company came about as I was saying, this vision I had in the operating room of actually scaling and bringing EEG monitoring as a vital sign to everyone. I was actually pulled out by somebody who had also been, prior to myself, a Stanford anesthesiologist. He was the founder of a company called Nellcor, the first in the world to commercialize the pulse oximeter for the exact same reason. Can you imagine in the 80s? We didn't actually measure your oxygen saturation. So he pulled me out and he gave me a lot of advice. And I started developing a customer discovery process, an IP portfolio. And at the moment, we are in a number of ICUs around the country where we are clinically validating our artificial intelligence algorithms for the detection of delirium. And we have also started fine-tuning these things called foundation models for the sleep staging. And those are about to be deployed in the real world. We actually have so much customer demand that we're trying to figure out how to scale that. And that's what we are raising money for.
Congratulations again, Divya. And then we get to the winner of the $10,000 business plan competition. Drum roll, I mean, there were 85 plans that came in from all over the US. Over 50% had AI as a major part of what they were doing. So, Brooke, tell us about your background and the Dabble Health story.
Well, first, thank you. It's a huge honor. And I think I'm still integrating the experience both at the summit for the first time and also being on stage formally because we've been building in stealth mode and working kind of undercover for the last few months, certainly in the last year. So this has been our coming out party. Unlike Shauna, have not worked in tech my entire career. And unlike Divya, I'm not a provider, but I've worked in healthcare for the duration of my career at the forefront of integrating technology into healthcare. So I was one of the first sales teams deployed in the market to try to convince doctors that they should place a computer next to their patient while having conversations. So I have seen both the upside of integrating technology in healthcare and certainly the downsides as well. I myself lost my grandmother and great grandmother to Alzheimer's and dementia. So the mission for Dabble Health is personal. And what we're aiming to do, our mission is to turn cognitive health into the next vital sign, similar to what Divya discussed, but in quite a different way. I am backed by three co-founders that are really incredible. My co-founder, Dr. Lawrence Chernin, who serves as our Chief Science and Technology Officer, is a Harvard-trained astrophysicist who started, his research was in the energy eminence of new stars, to give you an idea. So large data sets, and transitioned into the ed tech space. So monitoring and assessing is really his core expertise. And we are backed by two co-founders that are physicians. One's a physician entrepreneur and a neuroradiologist out of Harvard. And a physician engineer, a biomedical engineer who is a radiation oncologist and was really interested collectively in the cognitive change that happens during radiation therapy, as an example. So we built a technology. Of course, it's AI native, but what does that really mean? What we realized in this space is 80% of seniors have not had a cognitive health check in the last year. And more than 68% of dementia cases go undetected until crisis. Until late stage of the disease. And so I found myself in a senior living facility a year and a half ago having a very similar conversation about how to detect cognitive decline earlier. So we built a technology that's both accessible to the general population, but also engaging and therapeutic as you're working through the technology. So in 2 minutes, using your phone, we access a user's camera roll. And this is my grandmother, whom I lost a few years ago, and my sister and my daughters and my mother. And through engaging in the technology, through a puzzle, a memory game, and what we call a memory story, a simple narration of your own personal photo, we're detecting in 2.5 minutes all major neurological domains and most subdomains. We're NIA backed and have clinical proof of concept. So we know that technology is sensitive enough, for example, to pick up functional cognitive impairment from depression, which is something that no other technology has been able to figure out truly and simply by the use of your phone in a way that is really engaging because, again, it's photo based. The challenge has been, where do we position this technology in the market? So I can speak a bit more about the products and how we've packaged the technology. But I think the simple idea to really understand is, how do you convert a cognitive signal into a vital sign requires longitudinal monitoring over time. And where other technologies have failed today is that once you test and retest a patient or an individual, what happens is, through this process called the learning effect, right? The individual learns the test or learns the assessment. And so what you end up testing is the individual's ability to learn, not their actual cognitive function. And so what we've been able to figure out, and we own the patent, is how to maintain standardization over time while creating variability in the user experience through the technology so that we can overcome the learning effect and get true cognitive signal.
That sounds pretty amazing. So taking the test again when you know the answers doesn't work. So you've overcome that, it sounds like.
That's
So
exactly right.
where are you in the market then today in terms of bringing this out for everyday people? And tell us about the app.
Yeah, I would love to. So our product portfolio is called the Atlas ecosystem. The naming and the nomenclature is intentional. We want to create a map of cognitive health for people that is accessible. So first and foremost, the reason photos was decided is it's backed by research. There's more than 120 peer-reviewed research articles that support photo-based assessments, and we wanted to make it personal and engaging. So simply by engaging with the technology, we're encouraging users to remember their memories, which we know is therapeutic. But in terms of the technology, Mind Atlas is the app-based technology. It's the individual interface. And you can access it through the Apple Store or the Google Play Store today. And so for those listeners that want to get access to the technology, I ask that you email us at info@dabble.health and just request access by way of the podcast today. And we'll send you a code that you can access the technology for free indefinitely. So that's our gift to everyone and a welcome to users that are interested. We also have a package of the technology called Care Team Atlas. So it extends this cognitive signal to care teams, both for use in senior living facilities and in care environments like Kaiser, for example, with those individuals that want to track whether it's residents or patients' cognitive health over time. The final note here is the expansion verticals in both women's health and the longevity space. So in women's health, we have a version of the technology called Mind Clear to be used with women in the stage of life experiencing brain fog and changes as a result of perimenopause and menopause. And it allows them to actually track the subjective symptoms as well as the objective assessment signals along with HRT and changes in sleep patterns, for example. And all of this collaborates in what we call the Atlas Brain. The Atlas Brain is the back end longitudinal data signal moat. And so what we've created is a cognitive digital set of signals that have never really been captured before. And so this longitudinal data set, we hope our mission is that we eventually have digital cognitive biomarkers at the population level. What does that mean? That means that as an individual, if you're 65 and your cognitive score is 85, we can make mention of what this means on the cognitive health trajectory. So this is where we tie into the longevity and brain health programs. If you're perimenopausal and 45 and on HRT and your sleep patterns are this, and this is your cognitive score, we can make meaning from that and provide actionable insights into changes that you can harness in your day-to-day life to improve cognitive health. So that's the technology. Where we are as a company is we are positioned as a B2B SaaS business. And of course, senior living is our go-to-market strategy with, again, expansion verticals with closed market systems like Kaiser and the VA, and also with longevity platforms. And so we are deployed in early pilots in both senior living and senior centers right now, because that's where seniors are concentrated and accessible. But certainly a lot of opportunity in this space. We are pre-revenue. We've just finished our NIA grant research and are on the mission now of getting to revenue in the next 90 days. We've just opened up our pre-seed round of $1 million. So we're looking to engage with both paid pilots with senior living facilities and investors that are mission driven and interested in this, the thing that can't be done. And that's what ultimately personally motivates me is, when I say that we're trying to turn cognitive health into an accessible vital sign by way of longitudinal signal, I have heard things like, well, that's really ambitious. And that's exactly what we aim to do. So that's where we are as a company. And we're opening up a full seed round in Q1 of next year once we get to revenue. And we've got $4 million in non-dilutive pipeline in process with both the NIH and NIA through the SBIR program. And so we're well positioned to continue the research and expand.
Well, we hope that winning the competition will help you on your journey, Brooke. And you will be joining many, many other winners from prior years, including Natasha and Chris Ashton, who helped provide the funding for the prize, along with several other winners. There's quite a success rate we have of companies that have come out of the competition. So it's exciting for you to join that. And we'll be here to help take the ecosystem of partners that were at the conference and help them support all of you on that journey that you're on. So congratulations. So Divya, Brooke, and Shauna, tell us what your experience was at the summit. This is the 23rd time we have done it, and it's an ecosystem of about 250 people. But they are not just ordinary people, they're extraordinary with their connections into the market.
So Shauna, you want to go first?
Sure. First, the location has special resonance for me. It is my alma mater, and it is the first time I've been back since I graduated. So it was especially meaningful to come back and on such a mission for tender care, knowing that a huge part of me attending UC Berkeley was actually my dad, Mike. So first and foremost, it was particularly special for me. It's also just incredible to be inside of the rooms, Mary and Fred, that you've built. This community of leaders in elder care, in aging, in senior living, this wouldn't be possible without those who are able to bring everyone together. And it's especially valuable for those who are innovators, who are building oftentimes in small, siloed teams, to be able to pop our heads up and remember that we are part of a much larger and important community. I had an incredible 1.5 hour impromptu conversation with Courtney Baldridge. And I was reminded of just the level of influence and the leadership across the board, where there's especially relevant partnerships to be had for companies like Tender Care. And so this is not my first time attending this event, Mary and Fred, and I'm excited to continue the tradition.
Thank you. Divya?
Yeah, this is my third Longevity Ventures Summit. And
Oh,
every time I come, there's really something new to discover. The ecosystem that you were speaking of, that you're building, it becomes more and more cohesive, more integrated. There are more conversations between older Americans, caregivers, healthcare systems, and then, assisted living. All the many people in this ecosystem who support healthy aging. There were new trends in longevity and in the marketplace that I was introduced to. Artificial intelligence kind of took center stage. I mean, everybody's talking about it everywhere, but really the place that it means so much is how it's going to actually contribute to the longevity of this community as a whole, but also each of us in a more personalized way. And there was also talk about important things like privacy. And I think that's also really important not to forget about. Finally, we also met investors who are interested in backing our company. So that was pretty wonderful. And even amongst the people who pitched as part of the business plan competition, there are a couple of companies now that we might be potentially able to collaborate with. So many connections at so many levels. So it's really, really delighted to be there.
Music to our ears. Thank you, Divya. And finally, Brooke?
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, it was my very first time at the conference, and certainly to be on stage alongside amazing companies with such a history was quite both overwhelming and exciting all at the same time. So, if I'm being quite honest, I was very focused on this business plan competition, and also what I think took me out of the fear of being on stage for the first time and pitching was also the connections and community. So I'll just say from a high level, I've attended quite a lot of conferences this last year to try to figure out, where does Dabble Health need to be? What rooms do we need to be in? What tables do we need to be sitting at? Who should we be talking to? And I think with these large conferences, it's overwhelming. And so a small curated event, and I say small, and I know that there was more than 200 people there, but the individual conversations and the community that is curated an event like this is, for a new founder like myself who is early stage, it brings so much value. And so I think I just will wrap by saying what was also really interesting is that the sense that I got was, how do we use technology for good in the ways that actually have impact in the human experience? And that's something that seemed to resonate throughout the conference. And like everybody mentioned already, the conversations that came by way of being present were really impactful. And so we are devotees of the conference moving forward. And I certainly look forward to many years from now recalling the first time that I was there. And so anyway, I would just want to say thank you again for having me and for providing the platform and the opportunity like this, because it really has been transformational.
Well, thank you, Brooke. And Mary, it sounds like we have some very healthy brains working on brain health to me. So,
that one of the comments I heard was that there was a maturity about this conference that we hadn't had before, and that people were so willing to share and provide use case studies of where and how they were using AI and showcasing the impact that that had in senior housing and home care. So we'll be posting some of those sessions on our website. And of course, our next summit, the Longevity Innovation Summit, is on the power of care, December 1st and 2nd at the National Press Club. And so we'll be convening that group as well. I don't think I've ever had so much data come out of a conference because with AI, we could summarize everything. Someone even taught us how to take all the state master plans on aging and pull those together so you had a summary of that, what that looks like. So we saw innovation across the board on all sectors. And again, this amazing spirit and willingness to share what people are learning and to take that data, that very rich data that Mark Mahaney shared from Evercore, that Nathan Price shared from the Buck Center on Aging on how health span can change, and then also the important research of AARP, and then the one-on-one meetings. So it was exciting to be back to school, and I think we all learned a lot, Fred.
Just terrific. This is a good time to thank the summit sponsors as well. Our co-host was the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP, and our academic partner was Citrus at UC Berkeley. We also want to thank TCare, CABI, the Center for Aging and Brain Health Innovation, Solid Health AI, Posit Science, Social Discovery Group, Hugh and Grace, Pain Check, GoGo Grandparent, Child Free Trust, Quilt, Evergreen, Kubo Care, Samsung Health, and High Performing Grandparents.
Well, you see, that's quite a list of people who contributed to make it all possible. So with that, we want to thank all of our guests, and we truly appreciate everyone and all the support in making the Longevity Venture Summit possible.
And we want to thank Shauna, Divya, and Brooke once again. And of course, congratulations. Thanks to all of you for spending time watching or listening. And remember, you can find more, including What's Next, Living Longer, Better, Smarter, at maryfurlong.com/podcasts.